our graphs are going to have pieces. So it's going to be pieces of different graphs, just combined together. So we're going to graph one piece at a time for our piecewise function. So we're going to start with the first piece. So we're going to graph x squared if x is less than or equal to 1. So first thing we're going to do is graph some points. We're always going to start by plugging in the points that are given. So the numbers that it gives us here, that's what we're going to start plugging in. So I have x squared. If I plugged in, what am I going to start plugging in here? 1. So I have 1 squared. What's 1 squared? 1. So my first point, I plugged in 1 and got 1 for an answer. So it's going to be 1, 1. Now I can plug in anything else that's less than 1. What's less than 1?
0.
So 0. What's 0 squared? 0. So I plugged in 0 and got 0. So my next point is going to be 0, 0. Let's plug in another point. What else is less than 1?
Negative 1.
-1. So -1 squared is what? 1. What did we plug in? 1, and we got 1. Let's do one more point.
-2.
Sure, let's plug in -2. So -2 squared is what?
4.
So we plugged in -2 and got 4. So let's plot all of these points on our graph. We're always going to start with the one that's given. This point specifically here, the one that it tells us, if it's less than or equal to or greater than or equal to, we put a closed circle. If it's just less than or greater than, we put an open circle. But it's only at the point that we start at. So only at this point specifically. So at this point, 1, 1, is it an open or closed circle? Closed circle, because it was a less than or equal to. All the other points are just normal points. So I'm going to go to my graph. I go to the right one and up one. We put a point. So that one is our closed circle. All the others are just normal points. This is where we start. The other points are going to just give us direction. So I have a point at 0, 0, a point at -1, 1, and a point at -2, 4. So we start at 1, 1. So I'm going to start my pencil there and then just connect the other dots, and then it has an arrow there. No arrow at the starting point. That's where it starts. It's just an open circle there. Starts. Doesn't get an arrow. The other ones, we just connect the dots and we have an arrow going that way. Perfect.
So only the start gets closed or open circle?
Only the start gets closed or open circle.
And then everything else is just...
Everything else is just to show us a direction. Yep. So we plugged in the x values. These are what we plugged in here. And then this is what it was equal to. So we plugged in the x. And then this was the answer. Let's do the same thing with our second piece now. So I'm going to make that one teal. I'm going to do a different color. So I'm going to start with the number that it gives me. So what am I going to plug in first? 1. So always, always start with these numbers. So we're going to start by plugging in 1. So we have 2 times 1 plus 1. 2 times 1 is what?
2.
And 2 plus 1?
3.
3. So I plugged in 1 and got 3. Now because this was my starting point, is it a defined open or closed circle?
Open.
It's going to be open. Why?
Because it's
Because it's a greater than sign. It's not an equal to. So this one's an open circle. All the other ones just give me direction. So this is the only one that is a specific open circle. I'm going to put this on my graph. I'm going to go to the right one and up 3 and put an open circle. Let's plot some more points. So we want to plug in something that's greater than 1 now. What's greater than 1?
2.
Perfect. Let's plug in 2. So So 2 times 2, 4 plus 1, 5. What did we plug in? 2 and got 5 as our answer. Now this point just gives us direction, so it's not an open circle again, it's just a point. It's what's going to help us connect the dots. So we're going to go to the right 2 and up 5. Put a little point there. Let's do one more. What's another number that's greater than 1? So 2 times 3 plus 1. 2 times 3 is what? 6 plus 1?
7.
What did we plug in?
7.
3, and we got 7. So we're going to go to the right 3 and up 7. Now we start at our big open circle there. We're going to go through in the direction of the other points. So we start here, and then we go in this direction with an arrow. So only the first one, only where we start, these numbers get an open circle. The other ones are just direction. So when we graph these, if something's in the form of y equals mx plus b, where x is just like x to the first power, you only need to plug in 2 points. Because if it's a straight line, you can make a straight line with just 2 points. If an x is squared, it's going to be a parabola. You need to plug in at least 3 points. So if it's a line, if it's just x to the first power, like it is in this one here, this one was a line, we only need 2 points. But if it's x squared, you need at least 3. It doesn't hurt to plug in more. Here we have 3 pieces, but we're going to do the same thing. So we're going to start with the first one. What do you think the shape of the first one's going to be? It's going to be a line. It's just x to the first power, so it'll be a line. What number am I going to plug in first? -1. We always start by plugging in the numbers that it gives us. So the numbers that are going to be on the right side, that x is going to be greater than, less than, whatever. That's what we start by plugging in. So we have -4 times, we said we're going to plug in -1 first, plus 3. What's, yeah. What's -4 times -1? And 4 plus 3? 7. So we plugged in -1 and got 7. Now at the starting points, since this was a number that it told us, is this going to be an open or closed circle? It's going to be an open circle since it's just a less than. Now since it's a line, we only need 2 points, so let's plug in another number. What's a number that's less than -1? -2. So let's plug in -2 next. So we have -4 times -2 plus 3. What's -4 times -2?
8.
And 8 plus 3? 11. So we plugged in -2 and got 11. Now this point just tells us direction. It's not an open or closed circle. It's just a point. So let's plot our points. We're gonna go to the left 1 and up 7. And we put an open circle there. The other one, I'm going to go to the left 2 and up 11. So it's just off our graph a little bit. That one just tells us direction. So I'm going to start at my open circle. We always start with the first number and then just connect the dots with an arrow. Because we could have plugged in any number that was less than -1. There's no ending point, so that's why it gets an arrow. Any questions on the first piece there? Perfect. Let's do the second piece. So here, what type of shape for our graph are we going to have? It's just x to the first power, so this is also going to be what? A line. So we only need 2 points to plug in. If it's x squared, it won't be. If it's just x, like x to the first power, it'll be a line. So we only need 2 points for line. What number do you think we should plug in here first? Where do we start? -1. This one, since it's a middle piece, it gives us 2 numbers to start. So these are going to be the 2 numbers that we plug in to start. So let's start with -1. We have 1/2 times -1 minus 1. 1/2 times -1 would be -1/2 minus 1. What do we need when we're adding with fractions or subtracting? A common denominator, so I can make this 2 over 2. So this would be -3 over 2. Or if you wanted to leave it as -1 and 1/2, you could. Either way, whatever helps you graph it. So we plugged in -1 and got -3 over 2. Is this point, since we plugged in -1, is it an open or closed circle? It's an open circle because here it's just a less than sign. So we have an open circle. So let's plot that point. We're going to go to the left to -1, down to -3 over 2. So that's -1 and 1/2. So right there, and it'll be an open circle. Yeah. What should we plug in next? Perfect. Let's plug in 3. So we have 1/2 times 3 minus 1. So 3 over 2 minus 1. We change 1 to be what? 2 over 2. 3 minus 2 would be 1 over 2. So 1/2. So we have 3 comma 1/2. Is this point an open or closed circle? A closed circle because here at 3, it's a less than or equal to sign. So it's a closed circle. So we're going to go to the right 3 and up 1/2 and put a closed circle. And then we can just connect our points here. Now this one doesn't get an arrow because it has a start and a stop. So if you have 3 pieces, the middle one is going to have a start and a stop, so it doesn't have an arrow. Any questions with the middle part? All right, let's move on. Because it has a starting number and a stopping number. So that's where our line starts and stops. It doesn't keep going forever, so no arrow. Let's do part 3 now. What's the first number we plug in? Where are we going to start? 3. So I'm going to start by plugging in 3, the number that it gives us. So when I plug in 3, what do we get for our y? Do I have anywhere to even plug in 3? So what's our number going to be? 3. It's whatever the number it is that tells us here. So it's just 3. So 3 comma 3 would be our first point. Is this an open or closed circle? Closed circle, perfect, because it's greater than or equal to. Now, what's a number that's greater than 3? 4, perfect. If I kind of hypothetically plugged in 4, because we don't really have anywhere to plug in 4 to, what's our y? 3. Our y is always 3 here. So 4 comma 3 is our next point. We can keep plugging in points, but our y is always just going to be 3. So this is just the line, so we only need 2. So we're going to start at the point 3, 3. So go to the right 3 and up 3. Put a closed circle. Our next point is 4, 3. So we're going to start at the first one and go in the direction of the second one. So this one's just a flat line. So this would be our piecewise graph. These are the 3 pieces of it. We don't have to stop at 4, 3. Like if I plugged in 5, because I could plug in anything greater than 3. What do we get if we plug in 5? We just keep going, we get 3. So it would keep going to the right if I kept plugging in numbers. So that's why if it's a line, you only need 2 points really, because you can draw a straight line with just 2 points. So we're going to be naming something if it's a function or not. So we just have to say, yes, it's a function, or no, it's not a function. But we need to be able to tell what is a function and what's not a function. So a couple rules that we have to follow. Y cannot be raised to an even power. If I had y to the 2nd power, or y to the 4th power, y to the 6th power, this is not a function. I'll let you guys take a picture of this in a second. And then if y is in an absolute value, so if I had the absolute value of y, this is also not a function. You gotta wait for Julian. All right, so in example 9, it just says, does the equation define y as a function? Here, does y have an even exponent? Or is it in an absolute value? No, so this is a function. Yes, function. You could just say yes. What about for b? Y has an even exponent. Can y have an even exponent? No, so no, not a function. What about for c? Is y in the absolute value? No, it's not in the absolute value. So is this a function? Yes, it's a function. So y can be in the equation, it just can't be inside the absolute value. What about for d? Y has an even exponent. Can y have an even exponent? Nope, not a function. And then for e, y is in the absolute value. Can y be in the absolute value? Nope, so not a function.